You got to be able to stay like you got to be able to stand up to the investor in a respectful way and say this is important. Make decisions relatively quickly. Don't make them chase you for money. So I do a 10% deposit. I hate paperwork, but it became so important. There should be a detailed quote. There should be a contract. There should be both your signatures. The legal terms, the payment structure should all be on a piece of paper. All businesses have to have WSIB because if they get hurt on your property and you don't have that, you're paying for that. Plumbers you don't want to mess with. That causes the most damage, flood damage. Here's a quick example. If your electrician doesn't take out a permit, which costs $100, by the way, and he burns your house down and the insurance goes and checks it out and there's no permit, you might not get insurance.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and let's talk about working with contractors. This is an area where I see so many real estate investors when they first get started make major mistakes that cost them major dollars. So on today's video, I sit down with John from Blackjack Contracting. You guys maybe have seen him on some previous videos. And in today's video, we just talk about, how does he work with customers and how does he recommend customers work with other contractors. Again, it's really important that we set expectations out from the start, that we have clear understanding of who's doing what and what's included and not included in that quote, as well as the fact that we're focused on building relationships and not just transactions. In fact, that's a reoccurring theme here on my YouTube channel. I believe your network equals your net worth. And so in my opinion, if you want to level up as a real estate investor, you need to level up the people around you and the people you're working with. So let's dive into today's video with John from Blackjack Contracting.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and I'm really excited for today's video because I'm joined by John from Blackjack Contracting. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes he sees real estate investors make when it comes to renovations, as well as some of the big surprises that sometimes catch newer investors off guard when it comes to pricing or the scope of the projects that they're looking to undertake. Hey, John, how's it going?
Great, man. How you doing?
Good. Really appreciate you making time to just kind of chat with us about some of the pitfalls maybe that you've seen other investors stumble into when it comes to doing their renovations. And in case anyone hasn't seen our previous videos with John, he really specializes in income suites or basement or legal basement suites, I should say, in the Golden Horseshoe area. So, we're talking Brantford, Welland, kind of anywhere and everywhere in between there. So, John, just give it to us straight. What sort of mistakes do you see investors making regularly? Or on the flip side, what sort of things do investors do that really frustrate you maybe sometimes?
Sure. What I find is that some investors get that itch one day and then they'll go and, like, I have a perfect example. Someone went and bought 4 houses in St. Catharines with zero research. And then, so you meet them, you talk to them, you tell them what the process, and then you start talking about how the numbers are, and they're shocked because they're used to working in Innsville, and they try to explain to them what the difference is and how the inspector process in the building department, and they just don't believe you until it happens. And so what I recommend to people is do your research on the area beforehand. Speak to other investors, speak to contractors, speak to inspectors, home inspectors, and you'll save yourself a world of pain. Scope of projects. People will buy a house saying, I just want to do that and then make it legal. It doesn't really work that way. You know what I mean? So they'll expect they'll buy a house and say, I want to legalize this place for $20,000. And you're like, and I'll be honest with you, I look at them and I say, that's not going to happen. Right. So I try to be straightforward with them, maybe not hurt them, you know what I mean? But, and I've seen it a lot. And,
do you mind shedding some light on why that's not going to happen? Like, it's because of fireproofing and things.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some major steps to legalization, and so you got head height, you have smoke detector system that's crazy these days, and I can explain that to anybody. You have natural light, egress. You have staircases, and the fire separation is everything when it comes to basement suites, and that takes a little while to understand. So I don't expect people just to get it, but a lot of cities won't allow you to leave existing ceilings, so you have to tear them all down. Then you're insulating, you're resilient, you're drywalling, mud and paint. Well, if you figure all those steps alone, that costs a bunch of money, right? And then so there's where fire separations tie into each other, the furnace rooms, what type of hot water tanks you use, because you have to have natural. Once you seal them up, you need fresh air. The furnaces, if they don't have double venting, won't pass in a legalization. So I mean, just spitting off the furnace in the hot water tank, we're at $5,000, right? I mean, so this is where it pays to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. It doesn't have to be me or our specific contract. There's a lot of people out there that focus on investments that could lead you in the right direction to make sure that you're budgeting the right amount of money.
Mm-hmm. And so, what are some of the surprises that catch investors off guard when you're talking to them, especially newer investors that are looking to do legal income suites?
Yeah, unless they've been working somebody that was leading them in the right direction, they are shocked by the price. And quite honestly, I am. But like the average base in suite, including taxes, $100,000. It's a lot of money, and a lot of people will buy these places and just be shocked by the ticket price. And then you try to explain to them what actually goes into them, but they probably won't believe you. I'm just a sleazy contractor trying to make money. You know what I mean? But so I'll see a lot of that, and then all of a sudden they'll start calling other people. Then they realize what they've done, and then they're like, "Can we work? How can we cut the price on this?" Like, well, you're going to have to skimp on the important stuff, which I really don't like getting into. I'll preach the behind the wall stuff to the cows come home. Before you're going to get quartz countertops, you're going to make sure your electrical is safe. Your plumbing's not going to leak. People are going to be warm, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where it takes a strong-willed person, which I am, because you got to be able to stand up to the investor in a respectful way and say this is important. And some people don't do that, and then I've seen recently basement suites that are 6-month-old that have to be torn apart because they were done wrong.
That's a big point to make there, right? A lot of investors, when they first get started, they decide to cut corners by doing exactly what you said, and then 6 months or a year later, or even a couple years later, the city comes knocking or a neighbor reports something, and then all of a sudden, now they're coming back to you, but they've actually lost the original 20 or 40 grand they spent on half-assing the project.
That's right, and so yeah, that's the key, right? There is places you can save money. Like I'll help people. Like, how can I do some things myself? I'm like, painting's all labor. Painting's a great one to save $3,000, right? Laying floors don't take rocket science. That's
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to like the meat and bones in the legalization part, you should really leave that up to someone that knows what they're doing, or we're working with somebody that could lead you in that direction, like a experienced contractor. Or I mean, there's investor-based people that have done a bunch themselves that now know what they're doing. And so I just recommend in the first few projects, have somebody on your side.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. If kind of flipping this conversation now, what are some of the biggest frustrations from your perspective when dealing with customers? If you could build the perfect customer, other than just giving you a blank check, what would that look like?
So make decisions relatively quickly, because when I try to plan out a project, if you're hemming and hawing about everything, that's going to make my life real hard. Understand that I cannot perform miracles and do these places in a week. Everything has a step. Understand that we don't get paid any more money to be there for 6 months rather than 3 months. So we want to be out as fast as possible too. If something's going a little bit longer, it isn't on purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
and 3 is like, don't. And this is advice for anybody working with contractors. Don't make them chase you for money. I'm not saying pay them up front. Don't do that. I'm saying is do not make them chase you for money. These guys, I mean, it is very expensive to run this business. So if they're chasing your money, they're not going to be able to buy your material. It's going to take longer. Like I recommend, I do a 7 payment schedule throughout a project. So you're not taking too much. You're taking enough to float the project.
What does that look like, John?
So I do a 10% deposit as we start the project. I don't even want the money until a week before I start the project. I don't want to spend it. So, you know what I mean? So I take a 10% deposit, and what we do is we'll get the demo done. And then I'll take 10% more when I order the lumber, get the framing done. Before the trades contractors come in, I'll take 20%. Before the drywall goes up, I'll take 20%. And then it just leads out. And then at the end, it's 10% remaining until the job's passed and you're happy. So leaves enough meat on the bone for everybody. You're not worried. I'm not taking half your money up front because then you can have real worried people.
Mm-hmm.
People that want higher deposits, but it scares a lot of people. And for quite honestly, it's not necessary. If you're paying your contractor on time, there's no reason he needs more or less. And you know what, if you look, it's to float the project, we're paying the bills, and quite honestly, the money that we make in profit comes at the end. So like if you're doing it well and you're a proper run contractor company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the smaller guys are a little different. They're not going to have the same systems or the same overhead that we do, but you still want to leave enough meat on the bone at all times.
Yeah.
Because if you owe me $500 and I got $10,000 of work to do, like, and I'm talking about the average smaller guy, and somebody offers you another job that's going to make you a bunch of money, you're going to start messing around. And I've seen it 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to make sure the payment structure is laid out properly.
Yeah. And building upon that point, I'm sure you've walked into a lot of projects halfway through or once they're done when the owner realizes they hired the wrong contractor. In fact, you know, in a previous video, that's how what we really discussed. That's how this business all came into fruition, right? Was kind of based off of Bet, you being able to do the basement project. So when you do walk into those situations, is there any common themes that you find where these investors went wrong when choosing their contractor, or parts of the agreement where they set it up wrong?
Yeah, working with a contractor is very there, because unfortunately, the honest truth, I get sidetracked, but 90% of the contractors are bad. It's the honest truth. It's a terrible business. It's a terrible people to make you trust. It takes a long time to earn trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of great contractors too that hard work, want to make sure the project thing. They're there to make money, but they're also there to make you money. And so what you'll know, paperwork is a huge one, and it took me years to get good at this. I hate paperwork, but it became so important. There should be a detailed quote. There should be a contract. There should be both your signatures. The legal terms, the payment structure should all be on a piece of paper.
Hey YouTube, Matt here. Just want to quickly interrupt and let you guys know, John from Blackjack Contracting, he's actually a real guy. And so I really encourage you guys, if you're looking for a contractor you can trust, someone you can build a long-term relationship with as an investor, I've only heard great things from my fellow investors that have worked with John, but I really do encourage you guys to reach out. He's been sponsoring the REI Club for quite a while now. I've heard great things from their members. I just want to make more great resources available to you guys. So I know contractors are one of those black boxes. A lot of real estate investors struggle to find a good partner in regards to a contractor. I think John could be that contractor for you if you're in the greater Toronto, Hamilton area. So again, link in the video description down below. Feel free to check out John, him up, and tell Matt sent you.
And so what you'll know, paperwork is a huge one, and it took me years to get good at this. I hate paperwork, but it became so important. There should be a detailed quote. There should be a contract. There should be both your signatures. The legal terms, the payment structure should all be on a piece of paper. And you should read that over, and you should almost have a buddy read it over to make sure you're not missing anything. Like, you want to know what's in the project. You want to know what's not included in the project. You want to ask questions before you sign the contract. I mean, and once you've done that part, you'll know real quick if you have a good contractor or not once he gets the project, right? You'll see if places are a disaster. You'll see if they're getting people saying, you'll see weeks at a time nothing happening, or you'll see things they screwed up. Doesn't mean you can't make a mistake. We all do. But if consistent mistakes, and all of a sudden you're having inspection problems, and all of a sudden things aren't getting done, or you start seeing other people not getting paid, because when a contractor goes bad, you'll see a paper trail all over the place with people looking for them. Like referrals, I think, are everything in the contracting world. That's why I'll eat a $20,000 mistake, so I don't get a bad referral, right? It's not worth it. So you call around, talk to investors, talk to building inspectors, talk to BCIM guys. I get a lot of referrals.
That's a great point.
And because they'll work with you before. And I mean, as the investor, that's the best thing about this. Like, the one thing I've never noticed is how much of a community investors are. Facebook groups, Instagram, REI clubs, rock stars, all that stuff. I'm not sure what they got out in London, but there's so many of them that great resource.
Yeah, I love that. Those are some great tips. Is there any credentials, if say I'm looking to hire a contractor in Ontario, Canada specifically, that I should be looking towards? You know, should I be making sure they got WSIB insurance?
So Unfortunately, general contracting is one of the worst regulated things in Ontario. Unless you're in certain cities, there is no general contractor's license. The honest truth of the matter is, like as an electrician, it took me 5 years, then another 3 years to become a master, then I get to be a contractor. As a general contractor, I woke up one morning and said, I'm a general contractor. I'm not proud of that. But there is on the other note, all businesses have to have WSIB, because if they get hurt on your property and you don't have that, you're paying for that. Insurance, minimum $2 million liability. I recommend 5, in case, so if anything goes wrong, someone gets hurt. That is a requirement. I would actually request it from your contractor. You can actually go on WSIB yourself nowadays and check to make sure he's thing. You'll notice eligible for clearance certificates or not eligible. If he's not eligible, he didn't pay his bill. And the insurance asks for an insurance binder before the project starts. Those are the 2 main ones in Ontario. But you also got to consider the sub trades he's hiring. Unfortunately, there's a lot of midnight electric type of and like, here's a quick example. If your electrician doesn't take out a permit, which costs $100, by the way, and he burns your house down, and the insurance goes and checks it out, and there's no permit, you might not get insurance. All that stuff. Plumbers, you don't want to mess with. That causes the most damage, flood damage. Like, you want to make sure that these are licensed plumbers. There is a website called the Ontario College of Trades, and you can actually check if these are licensed people. Same with HVAC. HVAC's a very regulated trade, but people, will try to mess around. Those, you want to check out the people who are going to be working with your contractor too. All the pretty stuff, unfortunately, there's very little regulation to it, but doesn't mean you can't check on references first and check on some references. I have couples around, I'll send them 10, right? If they're having a hard time producing 3 references, that's kind of concerning.
Yes, absolutely. That's very concerning. And are there any red flags in your opinion? If I bring a contractor out to a project and he can start tomorrow,
that's a huge red flag. I try to, because of our system, I say I can start within 2 weeks type of thing. That gives me time to get organized, book people, all that stuff. But if they can start next day, they're either new or they don't have any work. And quite honestly, even pre-COVID, if you had no work, there was a major problem. Now things are getting a little slow, so that's kind of a hard statement to make. But the good ones will be booked up. Quite honestly, how they appear, if they show up in a rusted out truck, I would do a little bit more research. Doesn't mean the guy, maybe it's cheap. There's nothing wrong. I mean, it's little things like that. You want to make sure. I mean, check out their tools. If they're showing up with a hammer and a Ryobi drill gun, I'm going to start getting concerned. If I'm doing a $100,000 project and he's a buy yourselfer, this project's going to take 8 months.
Yeah.
I would ask him about crews and how you do your projects. Do you plan on doing this all yourself? Who's your sub trades? And if you can't produce those, he says, I'm going to do that myself. And if anybody says ever, I'm going to do electrical myself, that's super illegal. So you automatically know, get rid of this guy. But that's what my opinion is they shouldn't, if they're working by themselves or a small crew, doesn't mean they can't do it. Say hi to my wife. Yeah. And that's my opinion on that. So if it doesn't mean the small crew can't do it, but it would be, I really want to know about it first.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I've seen a lot of investors have projects stagnate. And it's not just the loss of potential rent income if we're an investor, right? It's also just the dead time. If we were planning to do a refinance or a burn investment, it's slowing down our next project as well. So it's really important that when we hire a specialist for our power team, such as a contractor, we want to be able to trust them, trust that they can actually do the work, do it right, and do it in a timely fashion. Because as real estate investors, we need that plug and play system, ideally, if we're going to build a scalable business.
Yeah. And the other one I'd say is communication. If guys should be busy, so they shouldn't be getting back to you in 5 minutes, but they should be getting back to you at least within a day. If you don't start hearing from your contractor for 3 days, even though you want answers, that's another red flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun, John. Any last last tips that you want to leave with us in regards to dealing with contractors or looking for red flags, or even how we can become better customers?
As I'm the same thing. If as a customer, just remember, build a good relationship with your contractor. I have contractors. I have customers that come over to my house during the summer, right? I mean, and those are lifelong customers. And your contractor is going to treat you better. If he likes you, he's going to treat you better. Simple as that. He's going to want to get a job done faster. It's going to, like, I throw in free stuff all the time. Like, my customers give me 7 jobs a year. You want a free tap? Well, here you go, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the kind of relationship you're going to get with a regular contractor, you built that relationship with. I mean, this is just petty stuff to show up, bring them a coffee. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, but it goes a long way, right? It shows you care, that you were thinking of them. And like I'm a huge believer in that. We're constantly doing that for all of our service providers. So we do that sort of thing for our contractors, for our accountants, our lawyers. It doesn't matter. Just people like doing business with people they like, know, and trust. And so it's really easy to be likable by just slightly caring about the other person.
absolutely, it's the customer. I mean, the customers that we like, that we're going to do a better job for. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, don't make them chase you for money. They have to be reasonable. I'm saying, don't give them a bunch of money. Give them a reasonable percentage, but don't make them chase you when the bills do pay. If you're going to be late, just tell them, hey, it's going to be 2 days. I had to transfer money. We don't care. That's fine as long as we know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's communication.
Yeah, I believe 99% of problems in life stem from a lack of communication. So I want to just really re-emphasize that. And communication's a two-way street. So as well, if we're not getting back to our contractor in a timely fashion, right? Like if they're asking us, hey, just confirming, is this the right paint, or they don't have this faucet, is this other faucet? Like, okay, like being quick to respond to that, just because there often is a sequence of events here. And if we slow things down on our end, all of a sudden that can break that chain. Taking 2 extra days to make a decision doesn't necessarily mean the project is now going to take 2 extra days. It could mean that, the electrician can't show up for another week now. And all of a sudden now we're pushing things a lot further back. So there can really be unintended consequences when we have a communication breakdown with a contractor.
That's right. I mean, just keep it over. If you need a day to decide, okay, that's fine. We won't worry about it. All of a sudden we don't hear from you 2 days, we'll start getting weird, right? And that kind of stuff. I mean, like, we care about these projects. I mean, it's not just a dollar figure. We care about these projects. So, we want you to do well because I want you to buy another house, right? And so that's my simplest thing is, like, contractors have a really bad reputation. Some of them deserve it, some don't. And there's some really good people out there. There's some great trades out there. If you find one that you like, do whatever you can to keep them.
Yes, that's very important and great advice. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate you making the time just to sit down with us today and kind of chat about how we as real estate investors can start building the right relationships with the right contractors. Before we wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact?
My website goes right to me. I'll get your info right away and I'll get in touch with you. On my website, there's a Calendly link, so you can book a time with me, 15 minutes just to chat, no problem. Or you have questions about a project. Instagram, Facebook, they'll go to my brother who runs that department, but he'll pass it up to me if you go through that channel. So,
awesome. All right, so we'll throw a link in the video description down below, guys. If you want to reach out to John, I really encourage you to do that. And otherwise, again, thanks, John. We'll see you guys in the next video.
See you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to John. I really appreciate him taking the time just to break down how we as real estate investors can better set ourselves up for success when it comes to dealing with contractors. If you guys are interested in working with John, if you're in the Toronto or Greater Hamilton area, I'm going to throw a link in the video description down below. You can find all his contact information. Feel free to reach out, hit him up, tell him Matt sent you. But otherwise, if you guys enjoyed this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel, and I'd love to hear what other questions do you have for John or other contractors? What other ways can we help you level up as a real estate investor in regards to your renovations? Let us know in that comment section, because I want to keep providing value every single day here in 2020. In case you guys haven't noticed, we're doing a video a day, and we're like, what? How many days in, Peter?
We're almost at 150 this Friday.
We'll be at 150 this Friday, so that's exciting, but that still means we got like 165 to go, so there's still a lot more to do here. So anyways, I'm gonna no, I did that math wrong, 200. Gee, there's a lot more work we gotta do. Okay, we need to wrap this up because I gotta shoot more videos.